Assalamualaikum. My name is Siti Nurul Syafiqah binti Mohamed Shahril from KBA 2505A. Today, I'm going to present the research paper about the determinants of poverty in India from 1990 to 2020. Poverty is defined relative to the standards of living in a society at a specific time. People live in poverty when they are denied an income sufficient for their material needs and when these circumstances exclude them from taking part in activities which are an accepted part of daily life in that society. The most commonly used way to measure poverty is based on incomes. A person is considered poor if his or her income level falls from some minimum level necessary to meet basic needs. Now I'm going to explain about the problem statement. Poverty in India has been a major issue of concern for many years. According to the World Bank, over 60% of India, where nearly 1.3 billion people live on less than $3.10 a day, which is the median poverty line, and 21% or more than 250 million people live on less than $2 a day. One of the primary problems with poverty is that it leads to the portrayal of individuals living in poverty as having no value or contribution to make the society. Most of the India's population lives in villages, and rural India is experiencing poverty at a significantly higher rate than urban India. While India is rising economically, the development is dividing the country into the two distinct societies, one poor and one prosperous. The research objective of this research paper is to examine the causes of poverty in India. The specific objective is to identify the relationship between poverty and the high population. Second, to identify the relationship between unemployment and poverty in India. And third, to ascertain whether economic growth influences poverty in India. And fourth, to investigate the government spending in affecting the poverty in India. Next, scope and limitation of the study. This research focuses on poverty in India. This study is about the relationship between poverty and high population rate, unemployment, economic growth, and government spending. The focus of this research is to determine if the independent variable of high population rate, unemployment, economic growth, and government spending impact the cases of poverty in India. This research area study is focused on poverty in India from 1990 to 2020, which is 30 years, and the independent data from 1990 to 2020, which is also 30 years, derived from World Bank and macro trends. Literature review. India's poverty rate between 2005 and 2006 and 2015-2016, in the 10-year period, 270 million were pulled out of poverty. Rapid population growth is likely to reduce per capita income growth and well-being, which tends to increase poverty, according to Albert 1996. Once individuals are unemployed, the risk of falling into long-term unemployment rises. It is found that the characteristic of living in poor neighborhoods create a poverty threat as families don't have the necessary tools to become employed, according to Hinterberger 2017. According to the Iceland 2013, economic processes affect trends in poverty in two ways. These include the view that economic growth determines the absolute increases and reductions in the average standard of living of individuals, and the proposition that economic inequality affects the distribution of income. As shown by the Trees and Scene 1995, multidimensional poverty encompasses the various deprivations experienced by poor people in their daily lives, such as poor health, lack of education, inadequate living standards, disempowerment, poor quality of work, the threat of violence, and living in areas that are environmentally hazardous, among others. The hypothesis of this research paper is, first, there is significant relationship between high population rate and poverty in India. Second, hypothesis is unemployment has a significant influence on poverty in India. Third hypothesis is there is a significant relationship between economic growth and its impact on poverty reduction in India. Fourth hypothesis is the government spending has significant impact on reduced poverty in India. Methodology. Quantitative research methods are used in this research. The data were collected from the year 1990 to 2020, which is 30 years, and it was tested using e-views. A regression analysis will be conducted to examine the relationship between poverty and high population rate, unemployment, and low rate of economic growth and role of the government. OLS regression estimation methods will be used to do this study. There are a lot of economic variables that are measured in intervals like the population rate in India and the unemployment rate. The OLS estimator is used because these variables are measured at the interval level. The data and the statistic regarding poverty will be derived from the World Bank data, Global Multidimensional Poverty Index, which is MPI, World Bank Poverty Line, and World Poverty Clock, WPC. Firstly, the high population in India has a relationship with poverty. The data or evidence shows when the significant result has regressed using the e-view software and another diagnostic test in the study. The probability value for this result is 0.0000, which means that this relationship is statistically significant. The correlation coefficient is negative 5.015073, indicating a positive strong relationship between unemployment and poverty. This hypothesis is supported. Next, the significant relationship is between the poverty rate and government spending. The probability value for this result is 0.0122, which means that this relationship is statistically significant. The correlation coefficient is 0.74355555, indicating a positive, strong relationship between unemployment and poverty. This hypothesis is also supported. Then for unemployment, the coefficient is 0.013023. The probability value for this result is 0.9854, which means that this relationship is not statistically significant. The correlation coefficient is 0.013023, indicating a negative, not strong relationship between unemployment and poverty. This hypothesis is not supported. The economic growth coefficient is 0.047341. Meanwhile, the probability is 0.5057. This also shows a negative relationship because this probability is not significant. The normality test, the result above show that the p-value is 0.1095 is greater than the significant levels of 5%, while 0.095 is bigger than 0.5. Therefore, the null hypothesis is accepted. This can be concluded that residual in this sample is not normally distributed. VIF procedure for multicollinearity. Based on the VIF result above, it shows that the center of VIF for each independent variable is less than 10. The results indicate that the model is free from the multicollinearity problem. Thus, the null hypothesis is accepted. Heteroscedasticity White test. Null hypothesis indicates there is no heteroscedasticity problem. Reject the null if the p-value is lower than the significance level. In this case, the decision is do not reject the null hypothesis since the p-value is greater than significance level, which is 0.1291, which is bigger than 0.05. Therefore, we can conclude that this model is free from heteroscedasticity problems, or in the other words, the variance is homoscedastic. Serial correlation test, Bruce-Godfrey test. Based on the result of this serial correlation test in Table 5, it shows that the prob chi-squared 2 is 0.0002, which is less than 0.05 significance level. Therefore, the null hypothesis is rejected. It can be concluded that this model suffers from the autocorrelation problem. Overall, this study strengthens the idea that our results reflect both factors that influence poverty in India. The question in this study is well answered because 4 independent variables impact or cause the poverty rate in India. High population and government spending have a relationship with poverty in India. This research paper reveals that high population and government spending has a positive impact on the poverty rate in India by highlighting the evidence-driven data analysis and past studies researchers stand on the topic. By following the moral actions provided, one will be able to understand the effects that climate change has on the economy, thus enabling them to protect the surroundings for better economy. Based on the results of causes of poverty, the high population is the most factor that contributes to the poverty rate in India, followed by government spending in India. This is based on significant results for both regressions. Meanwhile, a negative relationship exists between unemployment and economic growth, which is not significant. The population has been rising in India at a rapid speed. This rise is mainly due to a fall in the death rate and more birth rates. The excessive population has various adverse effects, including undue pressure on natural resources and increasing poverty. More people mean more consumption, which in turn means more exploitation of fixed and inexhaustible resources and lead to many problems in India. The recommendations for overcoming the reasons for poverty in India are to spread awareness about family planning and to include population growth and family planning into high school and college political and economic curriculum. Population management must be included into national economic planning by forbidding couples with 3 children and advocating for 1 kid per spouse. As a result, it will form a permanent population committee to plan, formulate, and implement population policies, as well as conduct relevant research. Next, India must focus on empowering women. According to the studies Finlay and Lee 2018, women have access to reproductive health services are more likely to be able to break out from poverty, while those who work are more likely to use birth control to avoid high population or unexpected birth, as well as empowering young women to become activists for reproductive health. As we all know, India is a poor country, but by providing incentives to inhabitants, the government would be tackling population-related difficulties. The government can encourage responsible parenting and argue that subsidies should be limited to the first 2 children unless the family is impoverished. The study also has some weaknesses. Not all the results are enough to explain the causes of poverty. Surveys are in many ways rather inflexible and lack potential depth. The present study was subject to a number of potential methodological weaknesses. However, these results may not be applicable to all types of variables to indicate the causes of poverty in India. Although the study has successfully demonstrated that population and government spending is significant with poverty rate in India, it still has a certain limitations in terms of collecting the studies and strong evidence to show all the relationships among dependent and independent variables in this study. To overcome this weakness, we will try to improve the quality of data. We will try to improve the quality of data collected and evidence. This research has drawn up many questions in need of further investigation. Further study needs to be done to establish whether other factors are related to the poverty in India and the solutions to overcome it. That's all from me. Thank you.